All right, guys, you're most welcome to the Yugaman 01 official channel, and it's very exciting, guys, today. For those of you that are going to be joining us, we are a little late, technology issues here and there, but finally, I'm very happy we have Council online, and we are starting this show on a very good note. Now, last week but one, we did our first part of the copyright law in Uganda, and we had a very good conversation. So in this conversation, we actually had an introduction where the council told us why it is very important to understand what copyright law is, and for creators and people in the entertainment industry, sports, and the related industries and sectors, it is very key for us to understand this bit. So I'm going to ask our counsel, who is online, to briefly introduce himself in case you have not seen him before or you're watching his face for the first time. Counsel, good morning. I think it's still good morning.
Yeah, it is. Good morning, Yugaman. I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, I feel like by this time your viewers know me, but for those who are just joining us for the first time in this series, my name is Louis Luanga. I am an entertainment, media, and sports law expert. Qualification-wise, it's the field I specialized in. Passionate about the creative arts, the space, the media space, and the sports industry on the continent, but especially in Uganda. And I'm glad for this opportunity. I'm always looking for ways to sensitize because my passion has really been pushing regulation or modifying regulation to help as many artists, media houses, personalities, and sports federations down to the athletes at all levels to sort of make it commercially viable in our country and on the continent to be able to leverage it internationally. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope people have questions. We can discuss anything you want. But yeah, welcome everyone, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Council, for that wonderful introduction. Council, in our last discussion, we actually discussed that in Uganda, we have a lot of talent, we have a lot of people in the creative industry, and we have so many people that are spending too much time investing into their talent with the meager resources they have. And at the end of the day, many of these people actually make huge losses in terms of revenue, in terms of finances. And we also looked at a scenario where many come to the point of retirement and they have nothing to count on their hands out of what they have been doing. So, Council, today, I have a set of questions that actually came from the people that watched our first interview. And those questions are what, first of all, I want to focus on, and then we can expound on the conversation. So, Council, the first question that was so common out of the feedback that I got from the first video was, why is knowing copyright law important to creative and sports individuals?
Thank you for that question. That's a very good question. We are talking about creative arts, literary arts, and branding and the like. And the foundation of this conversation was, why is it that we have people who are, in simple terms, broke yet they're involved in this industry? Copyright is what was created to sort of, one, to protect people's ideas that they have implemented in whatever way. It could be literary works like books, poems, it could be maps, it could be pictures, it could be music, it could be audiovisual. And copyright law is, as part of intellectual property, is what was created for you, one, to claim ownership and credit of that work, two, sort of have moral rights over that work as to deciding what to do with it. And three, to sort of be able to commercially gain from any sort of work like that. So copyright is what protects that work, and the actual basis of intellectual property, and we're talking about copyright now, was one, to sort of force innovation, to give people an inducement to promote innovation so that people can innovate, people can create these works without someone stealing it and the like. So it's extremely important that copyright is around. It's extremely important that people register their works for copyright, because that is the only way they can legally sort of get into any commercial transaction. It is the only way they can get full credit, legal credit. And like, so that's why it's very, very important.
Wow, fantastic. So, Council, in other words,
I hope I answered your question.
Yes, I just want to expound on it a bit. In other words, you're saying if I'm into the creative industry or I'm in the sports industry, it is very important for me to understand the legal aspect that governs my industry as a business so that I can be able to benefit out of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Otherwise, if you just do your works without any form of legal protection, then people wouldn't even be, let's say, induced to do work, because then everyone would access your work and do whatever they want with it. But copyright gives creators sort of the right to ownership, credit, and to be able to commercially gain from these works. I have to make something clear, though. People always confuse copyright protection for protection of ideas. Intellectual property doesn't protect ideas. It protects expression of those ideas. I want to make that very clear, because once you have an idea and you keep it in your head, and you just talk about it, and then someone comes up with the idea, we get so many cases that are like, that was my idea, but you have to execute your idea. So one of the tenets of copyright is expression of those ideas. As long as you write something down, as long as you draw something, as long as you sing something, as long as you recite something, as long as it's an idea that has been expressed, it is protected by copyright.
So, Council, still on the same note, before actually I go on to the next question that came out from our viewers, if, for example, in the music industry, we've had scenarios where somebody says, hey, those are my lyrics, those are my songs, I had them first, but then you got them and went and registered them. What happens in a scenario where, for example, in Uganda it has happened, where people put out a song at the same time. A few weeks back, there is an artist called Crystal Panda who put out a song, and just days after, another artist called Munji put out almost the same song, same beat, same words, same everything. And now, in that case, if one of those guys had gone and registered that, and then another person also comes with the same thing, would there be a conflict, or both of them would register their songs without any conflict?
Okay. Again, like any industry, in the music industry, there's going to be people who are going to maneuver and probably take someone's lyrics and probably take someone's beat and probably do any of that stuff. And I'm ignorant about the Crystal Panda situation. I don't know about it, so I'm not talking about that. But this happens a lot in not just the music industry, but in even the movie industry. You find like there are two scripts that are like the same and the like. So copyright sort of requires originality, but the originality isn't held to a very high standard per se. So that's why, again, it's very important that once you do your work, you publish it, because unfortunately, copyright protects your work even without it being registered, which is a good thing. But unfortunately, for you to legally sort of claim any right in any copyright in any work, you have to first register it, sort of legally claim. You have to first register it so that, so if someone beats you to registering that copyright, they will have right in that work. So this has been happening, especially in Uganda, where we've met many cases where someone comes and they probably didn't take a step to register their copyright, but someone else did the song way after them and registered. And then it gets a bit hard to claim. However, the standard of originality within copyright isn't so strict. You don't have to do something that is extremely new for it to be protected by copyright. There are conflict resolution mechanisms, which are the foundation of copyright. For example, I'm going to give an example of a song. If we are creatives and we have someone who writes the song, we have someone who produces the song, and we have someone who performs the song, who you know as the musician. Imagine all those are three different people who have contributed to this work, okay? They each, and I want to make this very clear, because people have been like, okay, so if I write a song and I sell, they each have copyright in that song. There's copyright in the composition, which is the underlying notes. You could say what the producer does, and the lyrics, which is where the publishing goes. There's copyright in the recording, which is what the artist has performed, hence where the performance rights and royalties are going to come from, okay? Sometimes an artist is both the writer and the singer. Sometimes the producer is both. So it's just an intercross, But all those aspects are copyright, and all those particular individuals who have creatively contributed to a creative work have a copyright distinct to them. However, what has been happening, one, because of ignorance of that, people have been probably selling off their copyright. You come to a producer, you just give him a one-time fee, and they sell off probably their beat. You come to a writer, they write you a song, they give them a one-time fee, and that's it. If it's contractual, you can deal in your copyright. That is fine. You can decide that, listen, you're going to give me a one-time fee, and I'm going to assign all this copyright, all these lyrics, and all these beats to you, let's say the musician. If not, if in absence of any contract that is to that effect that we've assigned, then every single person who creatively contributed to that work that has now been expressed through a song has a copyright in the song. Now, Yogaman, again, this is going to cause a lot of controversy, because you're going to have people who have produced songs for I don't know how many years back are going to be like, wait, I produced, I have a right. Wait, I did this, I have a right. Yes, you do, but also look at the sort of transaction you had. If the transaction you had implied that you are given a one-time fee and you have no claim over that song, okay, then you sort of assigned your copyright to whoever paid you to do it. In fact, record labels work that way, in that they sign a musician, okay, and in the record deal assigns their entire copyright and publishing to the record label, so that the record label can deal in that copyright. That is their business. The business is they own the copyright. That means if they sign you and they're giving you an advance, signing your entire copyright and probably publishing and everything to the record label. Now, we've had situations where later artists, because they really didn't understand the concept, maybe, come to realize that, okay, I want to deal in my songs and such, and they realize that, oh, it is the record label that owns my music. And that has caused a lot of conflict and the like. But I always tell people, the music business is a business first and foremost. So unless you understand these particular tenets, and I'm just giving an example of the music business, but it's something that cuts across the movie industry in Uganda, the actors, the writers, the authors. It is sort of the same thing, that unless you understand sort of the tenets of where copyright lies, this bundle of rights, who gets what right, okay? Once you enter into the business, which it is, without understanding that, you have already lost in a way. So you have to understand these things so that even when you're dealing with a producer, if you're dealing with an artist, if you're dealing with a record label, if you're an author and you're dealing with a publisher, If you're a filmmaker and you're dealing with a studio that wants to hire you, buying your script and stuff, you know what to look out for. Am I giving them my copyright? Am I assigning them my copyright? Do I have right after this work? If I'm a sports person and I'm entering into an endorsement deal, okay, am I assigning my image rights away? What exactly are we dealing in? Because that is the business, that is the actual commercial value of what copyright is. So unless you understand these tenets, you won't be able to appreciate how to sort of negotiate and transact in them. I hope I answered your question. I wanted to explain it fully.
Yeah, I think, Council, you actually did a very good job in explaining this thing, because one of the biggest challenges we've had in Uganda recently is where people now want to shift. I have seen so many international labels coming down here to sign up artists, and there is always a point of conflict. The record label in Uganda that has been holding this artist and the record label that wants to take on the artist. And most of the time you find that after artists have done their work, the new record label will kind of ignore the old work. And I think because of those conflicts. So you find someone joining a new label like they're joining actually the music industry afresh. Now, I'll just give you a simple example, and this is just an example that is random. It is not a reality. Somebody who belongs to Swans Avenue gets a new deal with maybe a new record label in the United States. So he signs up. Now, the music that they put out during their time in Swans Avenue has the right over them. And then he has signed to a new label. What is the relationship in regards to their content that is in Swans Avenue versus their new relationship of the new label in the United States? Do the two labels come together and negotiate on how to go about those works? How does it work in terms of, for example, if Uganda is going to go abroad and perform on the new label that has hired them, that has signed them up, and he has to perform music that originally is copyrighted under Swans Avenue, but it's the same artist that performed the song. What would be the relationship in between that?
You are sort of breaking. I didn't hear that question very well, but I understood the concept, and I'm going to try to answer it. You're saying that one, if a musician is signed to a label, let's say a local label, and then they are signed to an international label, what's the relationship with the music before, and how do the two labels come together to sort of sort that copyright? That is a very, very good question. Again, I'm not speaking on any label. I don't want to say that I know the contracts of Swans or whatever. I don't want that petty stuff. I don't want to think we're talking about anyone. I want to give you the practice and the theory behind it. In fact, let us get a real artist. Let us get someone like Taylor Swift that you understand. If a Taylor Swift or if a 50 Cent or if a Snoop Dogg is signed to a label, all right? Like I told you earlier, the label is transacting in your copyright, okay? Now, originally, the standard of the business was the record label, okay, gives an artist an advance. That advance could be worth, let's say the record deal is worth, let's say $5 million. I'm just throwing a figure out there. That $5 million could be, let us assume $2 million cash and $3 million in studio time, in promotion, in videos, in everything. Like the record label is investing into an artist. Again, the basis of this transaction, because music is a business, the business of this transaction is they're investing and the artist is assigning their copyright and everything over to the label in order for the label to be able to transact in that copyright, to sell this music, to put it out for streaming. And that is what the business is. Because without you assigning the copyright, the label wouldn't be able to legally transact in that in those works that the label has probably invested in. Now, once you do that, the record label owns the copyright. Same way if a I want to invest in a movie and I get a script. Okay. 1 second. I'm just going to switch real quickly. Yeah? Can you hear me now? I'm back. I don't know if you can hear me.
All right, guys, for those of you that are watching, I'm speaking to Council Luanga Louis, and we're having a conversation on copyright law. Yes, Council.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, so like I was saying, the record label then owns. I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to get my sound right in my earphones. And I was talking about, I don't want to forget. Say something, Yugaman, so that I'm sure I can hear you right.
Yeah, you're talking about the example where you have an old label which had signed an artist, and the artist has joined a new label, and they're supposed to perform the work in the old label and the new label.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I guess my earphones will connect. Anyway, like I was telling you, the record label then they own the copyright and they deal with it. That is why up to now you have artists, all that music that you, let's say, enjoy, all the biggest hits. You have artists that have toured on those songs, they have performed those songs have been hits, but they do not own the publishing or the masters of those songs. It is the record labels that do what? That own them in a sense. The artists actually cannot freely deal without the record label, because the record label, being the one that invested, sort of got into the deal to own that copyright. Now the deals are usually, if I invest 5 million and when we sell these records, the business is an artist should be able to recoup the investment, and any profit is when sort of the contract of splitting royalties happens. So after all the money invested by the record label has been recouped, like any other investment, then the artist and the record label start splitting royalties. Again, this is contract by contract basis. Now, to relate this to what you just asked me, like if someone is signed here and then they go to another record label, which happens all the time, okay? Once you go to another record label, that ordinarily is a separate deal. And the new record label has no right whatsoever as to the music you did with an old record label. Now you're doing new music, it's a new investment. And more often than not, some artists feel like they are trapped in one record deal, that another record label sort of comes and buys out your contract and takes you on from then on. And sometimes, again, it's a contractual thing. Sometimes record labels sit down and the record label you've been with might sell your catalog to your new record label so that they can start from there. It is a business. It's like selling stocks. It's like real estate. You understand? However, what the biggest point of contention for artists is they do not know that they're signing away their copyright. I could go into the details of record deals, 360 deals, distribution deals, or the like. The most important thing is for artists to understand, what am I signing away? What am I entitled to? These royalties I'm getting, am I getting them off performances? Am I signing away my touring? Am I signing away my image rights? Am I signing away my merchandise rights? Because now that's what record deals with big companies look like now. Like it's a 360 deal. They take everything. Those days it was just royalties off sound, and then artists would earn from touring and the like. But the record labels realized that, listen, we invest into these artists and some of them don't recoup, but they're making money elsewhere. So artists need to know. Again, the same thing with creators like producers, movie actors, know what you're signing away. There was a very, very good case of Malcolm X. I don't know if you know that movie of Malcolm X starring Denzel Washington. And they called upon a consultant called Al Mohammed to sort of show them the right way to depict Muslim prayers, Muslim greetings, and the like. That movie was directed by Spike Lee. And at the end of that production, when it became successful, Al Mohammed sort of sued for copyright. He wanted royalties and the like. And the courts were like, listen, Universal as the studio hired the director, hired Al Mohammed, hired Denzel and the like. That copyright that they were all contributing to, okay, is owned by the studio that hired. And ultimately, Universal Studios won that case. You understand? So people ought to be clear from the beginning. What are you signing? What are you giving away? And what claim do you have? Okay? I don't want people to think that, to get scared of record deals, that if I'm giving away this, I won't sign a record deal. Again, the business is give and take. There's no record label that's going to sign you. There's no major movie studio that's going to sign you unless you are signing something back, because they're doing the investment. However, it's good for you to understand exactly what you are signing.
Yes, Council, the other thing, before we leave that question now, I'll focus on the sports industry. I don't know if you can hear me well.
I'm trying, but I can hear you.
Okay, so I want to also now focus on the sports industry. Council, we have icons who are playing for certain clubs, who are also belonging to certain sports, groups. And these players, their shirts are being sold. Their names are being used on the club merchandise, which is sold for money. And also, these same clubs, they get endorsement deals. Say, for example, Ugaman is playing for Club X. So Club X pays me a salary, which is maybe AA. And the same club gets an endorsement from another sponsor, who is not actually our main sponsor. But the club doesn't pay me that money. In other words, the club keeps paying me the normal salary of AA when I should also be earning something from the endorsement deals, because my name appears on the endorsement deals. Now, what do players do in this circumstance? Where you playing for a club, a football club, it could be a cricket club or anything, and then you are not given that allowance that you are supposed to be getting. Or also maybe to know, are the players supposed to be getting a cut from the endorsement deals in their club?
Yugama, can you still hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, the question you have asked is a very, 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 it's a good question, but it's also a very complex question, because there are so many contracts involved in all of these things. Now, how sports work, and the sports industry is a bit more structured than the music industry, even in Uganda. For example, for every sport you're involved in, there is a national federation that is that runs that sport, that sort of regulates that sport, and that national federation is attached to their international sort of counterpart. That's why I have something like FUFA has to be accredited by FIFA so that it can run the sport and be recognized as the official sort of federation for football in Uganda. Same with any other sport. The tennis federation will have the International Tennis Federation. The Uganda Rugby Union will have World Rugby, and every single sport. So that already helps with regulation in that the international federations align the framework within which all local federations in different countries should run. I'm starting from there, so that by the time I get to the players, you understand. And again, there are different elements to governance, especially in Uganda, for sports. For example, the regulator of sports is the National Council of Sports, headed by the Of course, the Ministry of Education and Sports being political oversight, but the National Council of Sports is the one that sort of registers federations and the like. Then you have the Uganda Olympic Committee strictly for the Olympic sort of side, that competing in the Olympics and having a table at the Olympic Games. Now, all these boil down to federation rules. Any club, any league, any interaction, any commercial sort of transaction in the sport, any league, any structures are under those federations and are run by those federations. Apart from a couple of leagues which are probably going to be run by clubs, but still with federation rules. Now, because sport is a commercial activity, and I want to make people understand this. Sports is a business, like everything else. Sports is a business. The more fans you have, the more money you get in, the more rights you sign, like media rights, TV rights. The more merchandise you sell. That is all money that comes in order to be able to run these teams. Running these teams is paying players, paying staff, team transport, marketing, and the like. Okay, I'm explaining it that basically lets people understand. So, in that aspect, a player, any team that is going to have players, to raise funds like any business, teams get sponsors. Okay, and that's why you have some of your favorite teams like Arsenal, Manchester, whatever. They have title sponsors, and these clubs sort of create different tiers for who can sponsor them. If you want to sponsor the kit, it could be Nike. You can sponsor the kit. If you want a headline sponsor, your logo is going to be here. Another sponsor is giving us less money, but maybe not as much as the main sponsor. We're going to put your logo here, and we're going to interact with your brand this kind of way. It's the same way I think Rwanda, as part of their tourism, were able to enter into a contract to sort of sponsor Arsenal, and in return, they sort of promote tourism in Rwanda. Again, all these are different transactions. But the same way, clubs have sponsors, leagues have sponsors as well. And a title league sponsor, let us say the Barclays Premier League. That means Barclays is the title sponsor of the Premier League. In that contract that Barclays has with the Premier League, they're going to sort of have condiments that are going to push the brand of Barclays, that are going to tie down all the other teams that are part of that league to sort of what the brand strategy for Barclays is. Now, there is that at that level. All the teams are tied in. By teams, I mean including their players and everything. And that's why you find Barclays on the kits. That's why you find different people from different clubs doing appearances here and there. Then, at the level of clubs, same thing. You're going to be tied in with whatever brand is sponsoring your club. And these brands, the reason they're giving this money, the reason they're sponsoring, is because they want to sort of profit from the image of these players and the club. So if I, for example, the only reason that I'm going to sponsor Juventus is because they have a Cristiano Ronaldo who is very popular, and I want him to wear my brand and sort of for him to be part of the marketing strategy of what my brand is. So at the level of clubs, that's what the sponsorship is like. Does it tie in the players? Yes, it is the basis for these sponsorships. Otherwise, then why are we sponsoring you if your players cannot sort of help market our brand? It's about numbers. And the value of what our sponsorship is going to be relied on how popular your players are, the reach of the market. That's why you'll find Pepsi having Messi and whoever, they are tied in. Now, the players themselves can enter into individual endorsement deals with different brands. However, every sponsorship deal has sort of exclusions or non-compete clauses, again, as negotiated. If at the level of the Premiership, at the Premiership as the league, Barclays has said we don't want any other bank, okay, getting the same sort of space or whatever, then all teams are going to be required to do what? At whatever they discuss, okay? All teams are going to be required to follow that basic overruling contract. Same way at the level of the clubs.
depending on what the sponsorship deal is. Whoever is going to sponsor is going to look for exclusivity, and whoever is being sponsored is looking for as much room to get as many sponsors, even in the same field. All right. So it's again a basis of negotiation. So coming back to your point, what happens when players are like, listen, I'm tied into this. I can't get into any sponsorship deal with this brand and that brand, because by virtue of me being part of this team, I'm tied into a sort of sponsorship contract with another brand, that me appearing for this brand will be in conflict with that. That is the basis of that. You understand? And that is why most of probably these athletes feel like they're being stifled. However, again, since it's a business, the more sort of brand energy you have, a Cristiano Ronaldo can have in his contract that he won't be tied down by, let's say, another like by the club electric sponsor. He will be able to look for any other sponsorships, okay? And then someone like me, who has never played a single day in my life, I have no choice but be tied down to that. It is leverage at the end of the day. That is what causes that conflict. And that is why sometimes players feel like, oh my God, they own me, they do what? No. It is once you sign up to that, clubs make sure that, one, you are the resource of the club. Any of these sponsorship deals, the resources for their marketing are the players. The only reason we are going to give LeBron James $100 million, let's say, dollar deal is because he's going to sell us $500 million shirts. That is what's going to bring in the money. It's all about the money. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo moved from Real to Juventus, and I'm told his t-shirts, the t-shirts for you, the official merchandise, literally sold what they had paid for him like within the first month. That is the whole point of these sponsorships. How much mileage are we getting from your brand as a club, as a club, and as a player? So it would be foolhardy for any of these brands to enter into this sponsorship. Like I said, for them, they're looking for exclusivity, while the brands and the players are looking for non-exclusivity. It's a negotiation point at the end of the day. That's what creates that conflict, Uganda.
Okay, thank you so much, Council. Now, there is a viewer who has sent a very interesting question, Council, before I go into the questions I have written down, because this feedback is very important and people want to hear from you. So the question goes, how do athletes benefit when they win at global tournaments? And I think the person is asking this question because many of these athletes go and participate at global tournaments but come back home with nothing. And we've seen many legends who have been benefiting from promises from politicians, from members of parliament, from a few rich men in town who say, hey, I'll give you a car, I'll give you this. And this person is asking, how do athletes benefit when I go to Tokyo and win a gold medal? You know, it looks like many people don't even know the rewards they get at these global tournaments. And how do people get to know all this information? Council, back to you.
Thank you again. That's a very good question. How do athletes benefit when they win at global tournaments? It seems something so simple, but again, different tournaments have different rules. There are tournaments, for example, international tournaments like the Olympics, that have sort of rewards, both monetary in terms of cash and medals. So different tournaments have different structures of reward. I think the Olympics and IAAF have like very, very good rewards that go directly to the artists. Now, some tournaments have sort of prizes that go to the club, while some tournaments are structured up until what the athlete gets. For example, at the Olympics, if Kiprotich wins the marathon, like every medal you get, there's sort of a cash prize attached to it. Let's just say, like, I'm going to get the medal and I'm going to get some cash. Whereas, for example, if Liverpool wins the Premier League, okay, they as a club are going to get a particular financial reward as well. All right. Now, even to the structure of the clubs sometimes put clauses of what we call either a winning bonus, a winning allowance, a sort of inducement for players to win. Like I think we saw a national team recently where they were like, for every game that you win, you're getting this amount. For every one that you draw, you're getting this. For a loss, you get nothing. Again, it's contractual and goes down to the structure and at what level you're playing. If you're playing as part of a league in a club, they have their own rules. These things are contractual. If you're playing for international tournament like the World Cup or like the US Open or the Olympics, they do have their own rules that probably cater more to the athlete than they do to like the bigger picture. Now, when someone asks how do athletes benefit when they win at global events, the money aside, because there's more you win than just the money. First of all, your value as an athlete, okay? Because most of the most successful artists earn more from their brands through endorsements than they do from the actual salary. Very few really exceptional athletes earn more. Actually, I don't know of any super athlete that gets more, like that their salary is more than their endorsements are really, really crazy. You find someone like LeBron James, because the league has a salary cap and he can't pay that much, he's getting like 5 times more in endorsement deals. Mahomes of the Chiefs in the NFL just signed a $500 million deal. All these deals are intricate. Okay, when you tell like a $500 million deal, they don't mean they're going to give you 500 cash. There's going to be money that is guaranteed. There's going to be money in case he gets an injury. There's going to be bonus money in case he wins. So if an athlete is looking for where he's going to get the most benefit, again, there are different tiers at what tournaments you're going to get a direct monetary reward. If it's under 15, again, the HTRs. If it's under this, it's under that. Those are different structures. These are all at the discretion of whatever tournament and what level you're playing at. If you're playing at the Olympics, I think a gold last time was either $30,000 or $40,000. I stand to be corrected. And the lower the medal, the lower you get. That is how artists can benefit in terms of cash. In terms of brands, artists can benefit more because, for example, if you're going to the Olympics, again, the sponsorship deal, let's say for the kit, you have the country has as Team Uganda is what you're going to wear. And that is part of probably the sponsorship deal, whether from the government or from the corporate sponsor that you're going to benefit from. However, if you're going to like compete like in the international athletes, the IAAF, and you're competing as an athlete now, all right, you're now Musa from Uganda. You're going to have individual brand sponsors. And any progress you make, because these brands are always looking at the progress of these athletes at global events. The bigger your progress, the more your value will shoot up, and the more you will have sponsorships towards your training, towards anything that's going to make you a better athlete, and towards you winning these global tournaments. That is the benefit that comes from that particular level. Now, most people are using this because the example we have in Uganda is athletes come back and they're broke, and that's when the government wakes up and starts promising them cash and houses and cars. This is because, one, most of our athletes come from poor backgrounds. They're really talented. They come from poor backgrounds, and they are not really given the support they require, even up until, let's say, what they need to run, like let's say running shoes, kit, their nutrition, and the like. You understand? And that is why when athletes like that go, by the time he goes, he has incurred so much in just preparing themselves with extremely little support, all right, from either their federation or the government, that when they come back, even the money they have, first of all, to get good money, you need to win. So not all of our athletes win. That's why when sort of some of them come back with the little allowance they've given them and a little cash, it is used again to prepare for the next. It is peanuts, you know, compared to what they have to go through and survive. The athletes that actually win and get money are the ones that come back and probably a top athlete like Kipotisha has gotten like $50,000. He has won like 3 races and has like, let us say, a $70,000. When he comes back, he's able to build a house. He's able to do this. And a lot of that money is going to go back into him preparing for the next tournament, because the federation isn't, and the government isn't supporting him enough. And that is where our federations and the government has to come in that if you support these athletes at the stages of preparation, and not just when they turn professional, but at every single tier level, from under 12, under 15, under 18, by the time those athletes reach the global platform, okay, you then and
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to request council to join again. Sorry about the audio. The audio was getting a little scratchy, and I want everybody that is watching in to be able to understand this conversation. So I'm going to request that council joins in again, and at the touch of the link, he will be able to join me. But thank you guys for listening and watching this wonderful conversation. This conversation has been, for so long ignored, and this is the reason we decided to come out and shed some bit of light. There is quite a lot of things to be covered, but what we are doing is we are just trying to relay what actually is very, very, very key at this level. So I'm just hoping that council is going to join in again. That's what I am waiting for, because I have a set of questions that came in from you guys. And guys, if you're watching, please feel free to ask any questions. Put them in the comment section. I'll be able to ask the council to answer these questions without, okay, council. So I want to add him again. Okay, so yes, I have added again. Yes, council, can you hear me now?
Sorry, we went off as I was discussing that. But
yes.
yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, I actually there was an issue with the audio, so someone sent a message. That's why I had to kind of fix that. But now I can hear you loud and clear. And that is, council, meanwhile, with that point, somebody appreciates, and they have just sent me a WhatsApp to say, thank you so much for what you are doing. This conversation has been long due, and they are requesting you that please take it ahead so that you awaken Ugandans to be able to benefit from their talent. So that was a comment coming in from a friend of mine called Jacob. Actually, Jacob is in Nairobi. He has just sent me a WhatsApp to appreciate what you are doing. So, council, you can finish that point so I can go on to the next question.
Yeah, okay. Like I was saying, when we're talking about how, just to wrap it up, how athletes can directly benefit from global events. I went back to, government support at the regulatory level at all tiers, and also how different tournaments have sort of different reward structures. But there's some tournaments don't even give money; they just give you like a medal and stuff. but winning that tournament exposes you to like brands that will probably invest more than the tournament would ever pay you. But yeah, I wrapped up most of the stuff. Let's get to the next question. I'll probably talk about what else there is.
Okay. Okay, fantastic, Council. That was a very good insight. Now, I have about 4 questions that are left, and I hope you'll be able to go through them, maybe in the space that we left with. This question that is coming in next came in from someone who is actually in the music industry. I'm not going to mention the name, but this is the question they asked. Aren't radio and TV stations supposed to pay artists for playing their music?
Yugaman, your audio is breaking and I can't hear the question clearly. Try to fix your audio so that I can hear the question clearly.
All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
It is still very poor.
Oh.
I can hear you, but you're still breaking. Is there a way you can probably type the question and I see it on the screen so that I can answer it very well?
Okay, all right. Let me try to get that question straight on the screen just in a moment so that you can be actually able to see them. So, all right. Let me get that question posted on the screen. Just in a minute, I'll have that. Great. Let me post it on the screen immediately.
As
Fantastic. So,
using the audio and trying to do that, I want to let everyone know that this information is very accessible. Sorry?
Yes, Council. I've posted the question on the screen, and I think you're going to see just in 1 second. I have posted it. But if you, all right. There you go. There you go. If you can be able to see it now.
Aren't radio and TV stations supposed to pay artists for their music? That's a very good question. That is a very, very good question. Okay, in order for me to explain this, we have to get into the bundle of rights that copyright gives you. Copyright gives you a bundle of rights as the copyright owner, one, to be able to perform that work, to distribute that work, to reproduce that work and get to earn royalties from that work. So all these are bundle of rights, performance rights, reproduction rights. That is like if you go to say then distribution, translations of different versions of that work. Now, straight to the question. Anywhere where they play music, at a hotel, in the lounge, it could be a plane, it could be a venue. It's part of copyright gives you performance rights. The royalties you get from performance rights are performance royalties. These are royalties you get from the public performance of your works. Okay? Now, every time a bar, a TV station, a radio, an online platform, even us here, can't play any music, a hotel, a stadium, play your music, you're supposed to get a royalty. Now, because there are so many venues, okay, that the artists can't go monitoring every venue and say, how many times have you played my song? Give me this royalty. And because there are so many artists that all these platforms and venues can't deal with different artists to give them permission to play this music, because If you're a hotel like Serena, you're not going to hear from Bebe Cool, who, and have different licenses for their music, and also monitor how much you're playing their music. The system created what we call collecting management societies or collecting management organizations. And that is UPRS, collecting management organizations, and some in the US are called performance rights organizations in the US and Europe. These platforms get musicians. They're sanctioned by the government. They get musicians that as their members. These platforms now as UPRS for music. Actually, UPRS for music, what they do is they go to all these TV stations, all these radio stations, all these bars, theaters, airlines, okay? And they give them a blanket license. They give them blanket licenses. A blanket license is, we are giving you one license and you can play all the music you want, okay? It can, for the law, it's usually an annual license. It depends on the size of your venue. It depends on the reach of whoever is going to listen to that music. That is going to sort of inform the value of that blanket license, okay? So a CMO or a PRO like Uganda Performance Rights Society gets a blanket license, goes and gives this blanket license to those different venues, and from the money they collect from these blanket licenses, they are supposed to make performance royalties to the artists. Now, by law, radio stations and TV stations and anyone doing any sort of performance are supposed to pay those royalties. Does UPRS collect these royalties, and the radio and TV stations pay UPRS? Yes, they do, because they wouldn't be in operation unless they paid for those licenses. They wouldn't be able to play this music. Now it is at the stage of a CMO like UPRS to remit those royalties to its members who are the artists. Now, because copyright works are different, music is just one aspect. For example, for authors, they have a CMO called the Uganda Reproductive Society, which is like the UPRS for books, to make it simple. For movies, they have the Uganda, I think, Film Federation. Does the same thing for playing movies and series and the like. Now, international performance rights societies sort of have, like those guys, they are advanced to a point where they can track how much your music has been played on all these streaming platforms, on radios, on TVs, and then arrive at a value at which what royalties you're going to get. Unfortunately, in Uganda, because UPRS or any of these CMOs don't have sort of the technology to track their performance, okay, I think they have very limited one. Apart from platforms like Spotify that are going to give you a back end, or YouTube that are going to give you a back end on how much the music has been played. Besides that, they can't track how this music has been played. And that is what has caused the contention between UPRS and the artists, because UPRS, at the end of the day, gives its members some money that, oh, these are your royalties. But as to how they arrived at those royalties, no one really knows. So how do you decide I'm going to give Bebe Cool 2 million? How do you decide I'm going to give a Yugaman 10,000? How do you decide? You understand? But ultimately, back to your question, aren't radio and TV stations supposed to pay artists for playing their music? Yes, they are, and they do, through organizations like UPRS, the Uganda Reproductive Rights Society, and the Uganda Film Federation. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did, Councillor. You did answer the question very, very well. Although, when it comes to the point of UPRS, I think we shall have a conversation that will expound on that, and maybe we can reach out to somebody from that same group to come and give us more on how they work with artists. Because quite a number of times we have seen many that have actually rejected the leadership at that organization, which I think is causing a lot of financial loss to the creative industry. And the reason we're having this discussion, Council, is not to force people to actually learn, but we, I think, are opening up a conversation that is deeper for people to realize how many, millions and billions they have lost that it is now time to close all those loopholes and recover that financial muscle. Now, Council, the next question came in from someone who was asking, how much does it cost to register content at URSB? How much does it cost to register content at URSB? It will be on the screen very soon, but I don't know if you've got me clearly.
Yeah. So you will be amazed as to how cheap it is to register your copyright. Again, the law doesn't require you to register, but for you to legally enforce, you need registration. If you have your work, a book, a poem, music, an album, all you need is 50,000 Uganda shillings. You go to URSB, okay, with your compilation of work, an application to register that copyright. Once you pay that money, they then gazette that work for 60 days. And after that, they'll give you a certificate of copyright registration after 60 days of gazette, if no one has sort of objected to that copyright. So it's that easy. It's that easy. That's the answer. It's that simple.
Wow, fantastic. So 50,000 shillings, I can register my content. Fantastic, Council. Now, I'll read the other question that was sent in by, again, one of our listeners. And this one, you a bit touched on it, but someone was asking, how can this information be accessible to everybody in the industry? How can the information about copyright law and what people need to do, how can it be accessible to everybody in the industry? I think this, maybe they're trying to suggest that there isn't enough information out there, or if it is there, it is not accessible to the people in the industry.
This information, again, is accessible. For example, if you go to URSB and inquire, they'll tell you how to register your work. But when it comes down to sort of sports contracts, sort of what your rights are, sort of how different federations work, how to protect yourself, how to enter into these record deals, how to understand what record deal does what, that is when people like me come in. I always encourage people to get a lawyer. There's been this misconception that lawyers are expensive, and some of them are. But having a lawyer is going to save you a lot. Your lawyer is going to be your best teacher in showing you exactly what you should look out for, exactly what you're signing away, exactly what your leverage is, exactly what you should accept at what stage. So kindly consult lawyers as much as you can. Secondly, these federations and the CMOs, they have websites. These websites have all the information you need. You can literally just walk up RSB and ask them, listen, I want to do my copyright. What are the stages? Where do I pay? They will guide you because they really want people to register sort of their works. But again, it comes down to, for example, experts like myself to sort of sensitize people. And we had planned a sensitization drive. The law firm I'm subscribed to, Katine Sempewa and Company Advocates, had invested a lot in a sensitization drive for people to understand. And by the way, not just the stakeholders like the actors and musicians and the authors and what, but also the regulators, the government, because we sort of have to come up with a standard that will be able to leverage us internationally. I've been trying to sensitize people. I think that's how you even found me. I'm sure, Yugaman. I'm always posting content. I'm always advising artists. I'm always posting opportunities. We had planned a conference this particular year that was going to sort of sensitize, sort of be a foundation, sensitize the industry. That conference was going to be attended by international players like Netflix, Universal Music, Sony, the regulators, the government, the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, all these musician groups. We're going to invite all these musicians to sort of have this discussion. And like I told you, this discussion we are having now is coming from sort of one aspect of what the problem is. In order to understand the entire spectrum of copyright, you need to have people who are in the industry. And that's why I was telling you, Yugaman, that next time we should have this discussion when we have someone from URSB, when we have actors or a representative of the actors, a representative of sports people, a representative of authors. That way you can have a 360 picture. And that's what we wanted to, what we intended with the conference was suggesting. We wanted everyone to be sort of in the same room, so that we can have the conversations, because all the stakeholders have to understand each other before we can come to now drafting regulation that is going to be relevant to our needs as a country on the continent, but sort of be able to leverage us at the international level to be able to deal with the likes of Netflixes and get our movies and music on those platforms and sort of make the industry commercially viable. But I do advise you to get a lawyer. If you get a specialized lawyer, even better. But basics, you get a lawyer. If you think like the only way, for example, for me, there's no artist who has approached me who I haven't given information, even without, them hiring me. Does that mean I'm free? No. And like I told you, Yoga Man, when you pointed it out, a lawyer is expensive. Unfortunately, we are. But is the information there? And is it accessible freely? It is there. Especially in this time and age of internet, come on, just go to the URSB web page, go to the UPRS web page, walk to the offices, ask. And then if you feel like you're entering into transactions and you want to protect your interest, then approach that. A lawyer is going to step you in when we are sick. If we had regular checkups, you understand, I already sort of equated to that, then it would prevent a condition that would probably have been preventable. That's the sickness we have in the industries, that people now approach lawyers when there is conflict, and then we have to work at that alien and work towards the back end of, okay, what caused it? Okay, you didn't register your copyright. This is where they're taking your money. Now you cannot claim this and that and that and that. Whereas, if at the foundation of your business, you had known exactly what to do, where to go, how to register, at that island, you will now be sort of dealing with how much money you can make, how you can attract more business, and how we can build this industry together as stakeholders. Yeah.
So there is another question someone has sent me on WhatsApp. They are saying, is it possible to compile an audit report into Uganda's entertainment industry, maybe dating 20 years back or something, to compile how much loss Uganda has lost as a nation and the industry has lost in terms of revenue as a result of the leaks that are within the copyright law and the leaks that are within the finance funnels for the industry as a whole? Is that possible? Because they are suggesting that since there is a plan of having a conference, which is actually about to enlighten people, that do you think it is possible to compile an audit report or to compile a financial report indicating how much we have lost as an industry and as a nation in the previous years?
I can tell you for a fact, I didn't hear your question clearly, but I can tell you for a fact that we lose billions every year. Billions. Like if
they knew how much we were losing, trust me, they would get involved, because it doesn't make sense to me. The government says they need money. It's only through tightening these loopholes that they can understand how much money we are losing by people's songs being on YouTube without license, and then those guys getting ad revenue. How much songs we are losing? We are losing through streaming. How much money we are losing through piracy? It is crazy money. But even more importantly, how much money we are losing for our industry not being in proper regulation mode for us to be able to have these deals with the likes of Netflix. For example, all the clients with whom I'm negotiating Netflix deals are only having that because they have probably an expert negotiating on their behalf. You understand? With a Netflix. And if you're negotiating with a platform like Netflix, you're negotiating at the terms of what their regulation is. Because some of the non-negotiables are going to be exclusivity licensing throughout the whole world. With backing him up, it's going to put him at sort of a level for him bargain for some things. You understand? So we sort of to go back and we are seeing a lot of money online, billions. The last audit report that our firm was over 187. Some of the data we could track, 187 billion. It's absolutely more, because we don't know how many. For example, we don't know how many movies are being sold down in your movies over WhatsApp, the like. You understand? We're able to just sort of data of the people that have illegal streaming on YouTube, on platforms, how many movies are available for downloading, how much UPRs and DCM was not remit back to us. It's money. Regulation international platforms enable us.
Wow, what a wonderful discussion with Council Rwanga, and I think the network is slightly a bit, but let me try to reconnect
it's out of money,
Council
but
and see what. Okay, cool. Council, hear me? Let me try to.
Oh, my mic was muted. Sorry.
Okay. Council, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you clearly. Maybe I think I answered that question, and I just want probably a parting shot. I don't know if we can answer all the questions now, but did you get my answer?
Yes, actually, yes, I got your answer. I was coming to the parting shot because this discussion is so huge. Because I'm telling you, it's getting interesting. I am receiving some very crazy WhatsApp that I think in our next discussion you're gonna have like 100 questions. Many people are now starting to talk about theater. Many people are starting to talk about comedy. Many people are starting to talk about people who are shooting documentaries and putting them on TV, and those who is owning the rights, how should they be paid? Because many people have complained that TV stations have taken their works and told them, we are giving you an advantage. We are putting you on air. We are marketing you. Therefore, don't ask for money. And yes, these people spend a lot of money. So the questions are too many in my WhatsApp. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to compile all these questions, and I'll have to make sure that at the end of this series, you have maybe answered 98% of them. So, Council, give us your parting shot. But before we do that, I just want to tell our viewers that this discussion is just getting started. Today is day number 2 in our series. We are discussing part 2 of the Uganda copyright law, the basics that we need to understand. You can imagine this is not even the depth, but these are the basics that the council is trying to let out for people to be informed. And you don't need to miss out on our next part, which actually we shall be putting up very, very soon on our social media platforms. Council, as you do your parting shot, kindly remind people where they can get in touch with you, your social media, and maybe any other platforms that you want to let out people to know so that they can get in touch with you directly.
All right, thank you, Yugaman. Before I give people how they can contact me, my parting shot, and again, said we are just starting this series to sort of get this information out there. So the main basis of what we are doing here is just to inform people, because we feel once people are informed, then they can realize how much they are losing, or they can realize how we need to move forward, or they can have a platform where they can express their grievances, and all stakeholders sort of come together. Because the mission, my mission, and I know part of your mission, Yugaman, is to make the industries, entertainment, media, and sports industries in Uganda commercially viable enough for our stakeholders like artists, actors, authors, musicians, directors, creators to be able to leverage this content internationally, because that's where we are playing at. We are not playing domestic anymore. We are playing regionally and internationally. So that is the mission. And we can only do this if there is sensitization out there, and if we work towards regulation that is going to benefit everyone, tailored for us, but strong enough to leverage our art, our creative arts, at an international level, to enable our artists to be able to play at the international stage, because we do have the talent, and that's what the mission is. I understand when people listen to some of these discussions we have, they feel like, oh my God, I've lost a lot of money. Oh my God, what have we done? Oh my God, we are dead already. But like there's a saying, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, or years back. The next best time to plant a tree is now that you know. So I really, really have hope, because most of our people are hungry and they really want this knowledge, and we have good content. So I don't want people to lose hope. We can mutually come together, work towards regulation, work towards unionizing, work towards creating these groups that are going to enable us have the best commercial value for our work, and for our work and our brands to be internationally recognized, that entirely the country to benefit. So again, thank you, Yugaman, for creating this platform. I hope you guys, whoever's listening in, you tell all your creative friends to sort of come back and watch what we discussed, to sort of tune in next time, as Yugaman will be telling you. And I can be reached at on Twitter, it's at Louis Luan, that is at LOUIELUAN. Online at www.cats.cog. That's, or you can even just Google Katende Sempewa and Company Advocates. You can Google my name. We have an entire entertainment, media, and sports department that is working tirelessly to get this information out and sort of protect rights of creatives, and create awareness with the regulators as well. Instagram, the same thing, and all other platforms. If you also want to sort of have a consultation, you can reach us through that website and through those platforms. And if you want any extra anything, you can actually even go through Yugaman. If you have any questions, like I was saying, people are saying lawyers are expensive, but we are creating this platform so that we can have this information out there. We are not charging you a fee for this. So you can reach out to Yugaman and have whatever question you want, and we shall be able to discuss it. Besides that, stay safe, yo. Me and Yugaman are not wearing masks because we are at two different locations. We are both at our homes right now. But again, stay safe, guys. And I'm really looking forward to the next episode of oh, let me see. It's going to be embarrassing if I don't have a mask, but even in my home, I do have one. But stay safe, guys. And I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm Yugaman. Hi.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Council. We really, really deeply appreciate the work you're doing for the entertainment industry. And I have very big hope that by the time we get to next year, there will be a lot of information and things will change. We're looking forward to our next discussion, Council. And I think we shall put out the artwork very soon to the next one. And regards to everybody at CAT, we love the work you're doing for this country, and we really appreciate it. Much love and respect, Council, and thank you for joining us. For those of you that have joined us, thank you for asking questions. Thank you for all the comments and all the WhatsApps that are buzzing on my phone right now. I think this discussion would get heated up to get people asking questions, but hey, I love it because now everybody is speaking into it. So much love, stay blessed, stay safe. COVID is real. We don't need to be victims. We need to be victors in this battle. So everybody, you need a mask and make sure you keep the social distance. We shall see you next time on this same platform. May God bless you for God and our country.
Peace and love.